I am ready.
All right. Well, thank you so much. All right. So we got the Dr. Boyce Watkins. Okay. Now you are a finance professor. You have your PhD in finance, correct?
Yes, I do. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. And so you spent many years, I guess I want to say mainly focusing on, the African American community as a whole and teaching, I guess, wealth management and things like that.
Yeah, basically my expertise is stock markets, and that's what I wrote my dissertation on. And so, I was on the faculty at Syracuse University for a few years, and I kind of felt like wealth is such an interesting thing when you really understand how it works. And it's like making money can either be really easy or really hard. And so I was teaching a lot of students, but very few of them look like me. And I said, my people could use this. I grew up where money was hard to come by. And I said, if I could find some way to teach this to the masses, I think that would really be a game changer for a lot of our families. So that was my journey.
Okay, all right. Well, I love to see it. Unfortunately, and I have to, this is what the platform is about. It's all about being real. We've had a lot of people show up saying that this is what they do, but they don't actually do it. You understand what
Mhm.
I'm saying? They use
Right.
it to their advantages. So, like, I spoke to your wife I want to say like a month ago. Okay. Very, very nice, well-rounded, educated black woman as a whole. And I remember asking her, I was just like, how is it, being married to Dr. Boyce Watkins? Because you are, a public figure. You've been featured on quite a few podcasts and things like that. You even have your own podcast, named after you and things like that, where I see a lot of the subjects that you cover surrounding wealth management, primarily dealing in the topics that people that gets people's attention, always the celebrities and things like that. I was shocked you didn't do one on my bankruptcy.
Oh, you talking about that Cardi B stuff?
Yeah, I was shocked you didn't do one on my bankruptcy.
You know what? You know what? The reason I didn't was because actually, um, I I understood where you were coming from. Honestly, I didn't. Obviously, I mean, it sounded like you made a mistake and you admitted to making the mistake, and I respect you for that. But also, I'm not really a person. I don't dislike Cardi B, but I'm not going to be a champion for what she's doing to the culture. I think that,
Mm.
I think our community gets harmed because you look at what happens to so many of these little girls that end up in these R. Kelly situations, little 14-year-old girl getting pregnant by some 20-something-year-old dude. And
Mm.
I think some of it comes from the fact that we openly sexualize our children at an early age. A 6, 7-year-old girl should not be repeating the lyrics of a stripper who used to drug and rob men for money.
Oh,
You
and
know,
that part. Okay. So no, no,
right.
I was talking about as far as because a lot of people were talking about the finances of it all. Like, how
Mhm.
does this work? Like, as a content creator. And then they were shocked when
Mhm.
I filed the bankruptcy because there was a lot of talk around like, oh, she can't file bankruptcy. If I don't have any money, I gotta file bankruptcy. It is what it is. Like,
Right.
that's just the nature of the finance system. And luckily we have a judicial system that understands that
Mhm.
people don't necessarily make what they owe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, bankruptcy a lot of people think bankruptcy means you have failed financially, and that's just not the case.
yeah.
Most millionaire, billionaire business people have had to file bankruptcy at some point. I've had to file bankruptcy, especially when times get tough, and that's and
Yes.
that's where a lack of understanding about how business works comes into play because when you become a business owner, you're taking chances. And sometimes things go wrong, and so I don't look at you and see a person who is a failure. I
Oh
see
no,
a
I wasn't saying that. Not like I ain't never got nothing negative on your platform about it. It was a few times, but it was okay. And I respect that. You're a content creator. Like you this is what you do. You're entitled to your opinion. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm,
I don't care about that. But it's more so just about educating per se.
mm,
You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people you'll find that, especially now with these lawyer, like I'm seeing the rise in these people calling themselves attorney. And this is no this to nobody, but I'm seeing a lot of black just people with degrees and they've studied law, they've passed the bar and now they've taken to YouTube, but I don't feel like they're really truly educating people like on how the law works, as opposed to you mix it up. You do comment on what's going on a lot in pop culture, as well as how it ties into the economics of it all, dealing with us and how we need to go about managing our finances and stuff like that. So that's
mm.
the angle that I was talking about per se. Nothing
Oh,
about like I know people on A, B, or C side of the fence. It doesn't matter. But as
mm,
far as like, having heads such as yourself in the black community to just kind of break it down for, because a lot of times I be wishing I can get up here and do it, but I'm like, I got a show to run. I'm broke.
Well, you know what? You know what? What you mentioned a word. You mentioned an important word. You talked about culture, and you talk about
Yeah.
common culture. A lot of people, maybe again, maybe they just don't know this, but your economics is deeply connected to your culture. And I get that
Mm,
a lot of times. I get that all the time. Like if I go on the Breakfast Club and people are like, "Well, you're a finance professor. Why are you talking about some rapper?" And it's like, no, because culture is heavily connected to economics. Most of the your
talk about it.
economic Yeah, most of your economic thinking came from the culture that's around you. So if you're seeing your favorite artists blowing money on Louis and Gucci and all this other stuff, or making it rain at the strip club, whatever, you're internalizing this, And I happen to be married to a smart black woman who's an expert on the subconscious mind, and she has broken down to me in 1,000 ways how this culture, what we call culture, it ain't really our culture though. It was created by somebody else. They
Mhm,
just dumped it on us. This culture has disrupted the minds of so many young people to the point where they don't even have a chance to be successful. So my
mm,
job is not just to teach financial stuff. My job is to help shift culture, because it doesn't matter. I could be giving you the secrets to the universe financially. I could tell you everything you need to know to become a millionaire, billionaire, all that. But if your culture shapes your values in such a way that you don't even value what I'm saying to you, then it doesn't matter.
mm.
Access to knowledge is not a barrier anymore. We have a whole university in our pocket with our iPhone. Right? Anybody can learn anything they want to know about anything, anywhere. Right. So your values and your culture shapes what information matters to you. Right. So if I want to spend my time learning economics and how to build wealth and how to do better for my kids and how to break generational curses and all that, that's available for me. But if I want to spend time, just only focusing on, whether or not NBA young boy got another baby's mama, that's interesting stuff. We all pay
Mhm.
attention to that type of stuff, but
Of course.
that is not um number one,
Especially
it's not a
me.
wealth that's not a wealth building culture, and it's also not a culture that it's not something we should be focused on at the expense of us doing what we got to do to make sure we're good.
Yeah.
So many of our
No.
people are suffering.
No, I totally understand. In my business, I love to put out the baby mamas and how many baby mamas he got so they can see
I
that the
know.
money's getting thin. Being a baby mama is not a come up. You understand what I'm saying? So I know a lot of people think Tasha K like the mess. I do. I really love the mess, but it's really more of an eye opening. This is what you want to live like. This what you looking forward to? Getting online, calling out your baby daddy because he's spending thousands and hundreds of thousands over on his new chick, but he ain't sending no money back to your baby. And you thought that this was gonna be your end all be all. No, baby, you got to go to work. So you got to, you got to
Hmm.
figure out
Well,
another way.
it's funny you say that because the lowest median net worth in America is that of a single black mother with children.
Ooh,
Baby
how
mom,
low
and
is it? How
it's
low
it's
is it?
it's like $5. Literally, like white women is like 40,000. For black mothers with children, the median net worth is $5. Well, why? Well, because you're kind of doing a two-person job by yourself, and I tell people all the time, who you choose to lay down with is going to have a huge impact on your economics. And sometimes we look at it from a short-sighted kind of perspective, like, okay, if this guy gives me the impression that he has money, but he's blowing it and he's not being responsible and intelligent, and then on top of that he doesn't value his role as a father, then I'm really a short term I'm feeling good, but long term there's going to be a price to pay. And
Mm.
I have this conversation with my daughters all the time, just how to really, because here's the thing. If you study biology, and I wrote a book called Financial Lovemaking where I talked about this, women are naturally wired to be attracted to men that can provide various forms of security.
We
It
sure
might be
are. Talk about
physical.
well, I gotta spin on that one, Dr. Boyce. I gotta spin twice. Let's
Right.
go.
So all
You're
of that's
speaking my
natural.
language now. Let's go.
Yeah, all of that's natural, right?
Yeah.
Like on average, women might like a man who it could be a man who's taller, it could be a man who's got more muscles, it could be a man who's smarter, it could be a man who's got more wealth. So that's natural. The problem is though, we got a lot of people out here pretending, a lot of people faking. A lot of rappers. I know a lot of rappers, and they're not doing as well as they might make people think that they are. And then also choices and habits are huge. So even if you're doing well now, if you're making a lot of choices that are going to put you in a bad situation, you're going to lose. So I talk to my girls all the time extensively about, like, okay, how do you identify a man who appears to be financially secure, versus a man who's really going to be financially secure long term. And a lot of it comes down to his character, his choices. Is he bettering and educating himself? Watch how he spends his money, and don't just listen to what he says. Watch what he does. Ask him what is your 5 year plan, and if it takes him more than 30 seconds to give you an answer, that means he has no plan. And a black man who has no plan is not typically going to be very successful. So I think all those things matter. So I think women, it doesn't, if you want a man that has resources, that does not make you a gold digger. I know guys complain about that. We got the whole manosphere and all that, and men kind of whining, kind of being bitchy about it. But the truth of the matter is that women want men that can provide that security, and they should, because that man is going to be the father of your kids or whatever. Who wants a weak ass man as the father of their kids? But if you laying down with weak ass men, then that's what you're gonna get.
Weak dick, weak sperm equals weak children.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
a long way. Okay, so I had a conversation. This was with the late great Kevin Samuels. I don't know how you
Yeah.
felt about him, but Kevin and I were quite, close behind the scenes, and him and I had a conversation one day, and he had talked about because you mentioned it earlier, how we're wired culturally into pop culture and how it directly impacts us financially. Because a lot of
Mm,
people don't see that. And I think being in the space that I'm in, right? It's easy for people to say, here's my motto. Here's my motto. If I'm not online bragging about it, when I ain't got it, guess what? Ain't nobody laughing about it. You see what I'm
mm,
saying? I feel that we as a culture are just naturally just wired, and this is I'm gonna tie this into what I'm talking about here in a second, because you said this and it got my brain to running, because I really want you to break this down since you have a PhD in all this.
mm,
um it's kind of like, you know if I'm always online bragging about, oh, I got this bag, I got this new car, I got
mm,
this, when I lose it, because I've been putting it in people's face, I feel like it's more devastating. Like I failed like myself, and I failed my culture. I failed everybody that looked up to me, because I was their way out. Like me being
mm,
able to walk into a Louis store and shut it down, or walk into a dealership and cop a car cash, even though that's the stupidest thing you could ever do. Um, and then when because all things must come to an end.
mm,
We've seen it happen time and time again. MC Hammer, Lil Kim. I mean, the list goes on. Like, we've seen how these hip hop artists will have it. They'll get these advances. They spin, 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 spin. Once the song is not hot no more, they're trying to rob Peter to pay Paul. And then all of it comes crashing down when creditors start suing. Then they ultimately have to file bankruptcy, restructure, move out, foreclosure. Lord knows Texas IRS gonna get theirs, foreclosure or not. You know, and then they're starting over again. And I feel like it further perpetuates the ignorance of what financial stability is and what being wealthy means to people. And so when I had a conversation with Kevin Samuels, he said there was a video he had me watch that I never knew existed, but I always knew because I've traveled overseas. I'm married to an African, and what I've noticed is, like, a lot of people think Africans and African Americans are different, and we're
mm,
not, right? The only difference is they've just kind of taken our culture and amped it up more. So, like, if they're in Africa, it's very hard to penetrate an economy into wearing clothes like this, right?
mm,
These Western
mm.
clothes. They
Oh,
get their stuff custom made, fabrics, shipped from China, and they don't walk in with the same outfit on. And I feel that, companies like Gucci, Louis, all these people like, Hermes and all them have taken that to say, you know what? If we could sell our stuff to black people, but
mm,
do it in a way where they're all wearing it. So if they
mm,
see Diddy or Carisha or them with it, they're all gonna wear that, and it's gonna be hard to penetrate anything else, because subconsciously this is how we're wired. This
mm,
is how you sell to the black people, and this is how you do it generationally. Because when I go to Africa and I'm spending time, they don't wear, you rarely see the Africans in suits, right? You see them in their African traditional wear, and it's typically clothes that are custom made for each event. You rarely see them in the same clothes twice. So I feel that it's been kind of taken and used and weaponized against us to the point where we're not making ourselves richer because it's hard to penetrate a continent like Africa that way and keep that money circulating amongst the whites. I mean, they're doing it successfully in some countries, but not all. But for the most part, they're not wearing jeans all the time. They're not wearing these little, these shirts, or, all their jewelry is custom, all their clothes is custom. This is how they're funding their weddings versus funding their weddings with a $10,000 Louis Vuitton dress. Do you understand where I'm going here?
Right. Okay. So you're talking about it sounds like you're talking about the impact of culture, almost like keeping up with the Joneses, where we will if you see everybody else doing something, a lot of us will do the same thing. Is that kind of
Yes,
what you mean? Like
but
kind of
in Africa, it's heavy. Like, if I try to
mm,
go to a wedding with an Americanized dress on, they're gonna look at me like, "Where are you going?" No, just get a
mm,
tailor, get her a African dress. They're
mm,
very strict about that. Like that, it's in our culture, it's in our DNA. And I feel like, being that we've been separated from where we were based on slavery and all that stuff, now
mm,
they're able to, basically they've mastered, and they've done it with the beauty supply store, they've done it with the liquor stores, they've done it with the clothing brands and stuff like that. Cars, like, for black people to only drive a certain car. Everybody want a what is it? I don't know, a Rolls Royce. I got to get a Rolls Royce. Everybody showing up with the same Rolls Royce because that's
right.
how we are. I don't think there's any other culture like that except Asians.
Interesting. That's a good point. Okay, so it sounds like you're referring to the fact that Africans can maintain their authenticity in terms of commitment to their cultural look, as opposed to African Americans, where we'll kind of they'll put something on us, and then we'll see somebody do it, and everybody does the same thing. Is that what
Because
you mean?
we've been stripped over here. We've been
Mhm.
stripped of our culture, so it's easy. We got them now. We got them.
Yeah.
You put a beauty supply store in, no matter if they own people come in, they're not gonna buy. They're gonna buy from this because this is where everybody go. Everybody go get their lashes done, same place. Everybody go get their eyebrows done, same place. Everybody go get their nails done, same Asian. You see what I'm saying? Because
Mhm.
we're a very by the book type people.
Mhm. Yeah, a lot of that, and that's why it's important when you talk about raising kids in terms of knowing who they are. Kids who know who they are, they grow into adults who can do their own thing without feeling like they got to follow the crowd. We have a lot of sheep. In fact, studies show that about 70 to 80% of all people will follow the crowd, even if they know the crowd is wrong, or they'll follow authority, even if they know the authority is wrong. So basically, with Black people, I think that it's amplified because we kind of are born with this type of insecurity where it's like, well, I ain't nothing but a Black boy. I ain't nothing but a Black girl. So you're waiting for the world to validate you in some way. So how do you get validated? With, maybe you go to a certain university, you go deep, 100,000 in debt to go to a such university. Now you got a degree. Now I feel validated. I get a certain job working for Google or some company or Nike. Then I'm validated. I'm an executive with Nike, right? We need or I'm driving a certain kind of car, Mercedes or whatever. Now I'm validated. Now I am somebody, right? And really, you were somebody on the day you were born because God made you somebody. I mean, we are the original man, we're the original woman. We've overcome things nobody else has overcome. We are very special. African Americans, even above even above other Black people around the world, we are special because nobody else went through the slave dungeons, survived the Middle Passage, survived 250 years of the worst slavery known to man. Nobody else can say that. So we have a uniqueness and a specialness that everybody sees except us, right?
I agree.
So, when we create something amazing like hip hop music, the coolest shit ever, right? They come along and they buy it, they monetize it. Whereas we're thinking, well, this ain't nothing but music. Everybody can do it, right? We create the best entertainers on earth. We are excellent at any sport you can name. We take it over. We have specialness that's already there before the validation happens, but because they keep that self-esteem low, because you're going maybe to this school, like even me, for example, I'm not a stupid man. I'm good at what I do, but I didn't know that as a kid. So I thought that I needed other people to tell me I was smart before I actually accepted that, right? I thought I was just going to be good at football and basketball. And if I had been raised in an environment where somebody said, no, 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 you're brilliant, you're capable, you can do anything you put your mind to, I would have had courage as a kid to go in my own direction. I had to develop that as a man, right? So really what I would say is, if anybody wants to understand this, there's a video on YouTube called How to Sell to the Negro. And Ebony, you've seen that video?
I have.
Yeah, and it's deep. It's real deep. I guess
Yeah.
it was, it was from 1950, but same rules apply now. And they're basically saying, this is how you sell to black people. You just kind of make them think that everybody else has it. You don't you sort of let them know that they're going to have this additional status if they give you their money. And so they like quality. So you give them something that's high quality, and even if it's overpriced, they'll pay for it because they want to fit in. They want to keep up with the Joneses. They want to look a certain way. And I'm going to say this. Following the crowd is a great way to destroy your life. Like really, following the crowd is a great way to go broke. Keeping up with the
Mm.
Joneses, great way to lose everything. Even with money, I tell people if you get money, don't brag about it. I have a friend who's a billionaire, and he said he said millionaires who just made their money. He said they're very loud. He said, but billionaires they whisper. He said, I don't want you to know nothing about how much money I got. I don't want you to know anything about it. I'm not gonna go on Instagram and flex at all because once you start flexing and showing off what you have, you become a target. You know
Which
that
why you think Jay-Z and Diddy and them and Kanye and them are so boisterous about being billionaires? Why do you think they amplify it so much in all their lyrics and everything that they say and do? It's like their badge of honor instead of,
because
just making their money, putting it back into the community and moving in silence. Like, why do you think they're just so, you know, loud about that?
Because somebody saw the power of hip hop and they deliberately bastardized it and turned it into a bunch of bullshit. I think they saw that hip hop had the ability to educate and elevate and mobilize people unlike anything before. And I think around 92, 93, they turned it into, bitches ain't shit, get money, kill black people, disrespect women, like all this other stuff. And I don't think that was an accident, right? So then you got into that crazy, weird, extreme arrogance, materialism. I don't know Jay-Z. I've never met him. I don't have anything against him. But I do know Kanye. I talked to Kanye on the phone a lot. I got tired of it because I said, we're two black men from Chicago. I really don't need you sitting around here telling me how important you are, or because that's rude. That's disrespect. I'm not telling you how important I am. We're not. We're servants to the community. That's what we're supposed to be. And leadership is service. And I don't know if Kanye gets that. Maybe he gets it in his own way, but it wasn't a comfortable conversation because I said, you live in that Kardashian crazy world where people pay you all this money and validate these weird ideas that you're the most significant human being on the planet.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's good for you, but I think you have a bigger job to do. Your community needs you. And so one example I'll give is I'll say, if you look at white billionaires like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos created over a million jobs for his people. Elon Musk created about a million jobs for his people. Name one rapper who has created at least 100,000 jobs for the black community. You cannot name one. You cannot name one. So my feeling is, look, I'm happy that you got your
Even in
money.
the hair industry, because they're making a lot of money, these black-owned hair companies and stuff. You don't think so?
Not any rapper. Now, I'm not talking
Yeah,
about
okay, I see what you're
I'm not
saying. Yeah,
talking about the
yeah,
business people.
well, we got
Yeah.
rapper. Yeah, okay, I got you, I got you, I got
Oh
you. I'm
yeah, yeah,
sorry.
yeah. I'm sure
Entertainers.
right.
Yeah.
I'm sure the Bonner brothers or whatever can say that they created jobs. I met one of those guys and they seem very nice and community oriented. Whereas with rappers, it's kind of weird because, and this is a reflection of our low self esteem. So I gotta sit here and listen to this record where you're constantly telling me how you're better than me and you're better. I'm better than you and I'm this and I'm that. That is very immature, low vibrational thinking, right? Because it's one thing, don't get me wrong, everybody wants to, especially the men, because we got our egos, we want to feel like we're the man. But that's some shit you do when you're like in your 20s, when you're
Mhm.
trying to prove to the world that you are somebody. Then you hit a point where you're supposed to go up the ladder where you say, okay, I'm confident in who I am. I've accomplished something. Now it's time for me to go full circle and commit myself to something bigger than myself, where maybe I'm a vessel of God or whatever it is you want to be. But what happens with hip hop is they keep these men as little boys. So you'll hear a 45-year-old man rapping like a child, because because America wants the black man to remain either a little boy or a little girl, or ignorant or whatever. That's what they want from black men. So my challenge to the rappers is, and this is what I like about Jay-Z. I think Jay-Z kind of acknowledged some of this. Remember when Jay-Z said, "I'm not gonna wear these big old jerseys no more. I'm gonna start wearing suits." And they got
Mhm.
mad at him because they were selling so many jerseys. Well, I respect that. That was him saying, "I want to evolve. I don't want to remain, the same guy I was in 1997." So you can critique Jay for certain things for sure, but I can also applaud the fact that he is willing to present an image to the world of a black man as a grown man, not as a little boy, not as the white man's sidekick, not as a beta male, not as a little girl. So there's progress being made, and I hope that more progress gets made. Like for example, guys like Killer Mike, I think care about people, and I met with Mike in Atlanta this week, and he's trying to do stuff in the community, and even Kevin Samuels. You mentioned Kevin. Kevin, I like Kevin. You know, the one time he did a video about me, and it was very favorable and positive, and so I have nothing against him in that way. The only challenge that I had with Kevin was I said, it seems to me that the world is rewarding you for not everything that you say, not all the intelligent things you say. They really love it when you beat up on a black woman. Like they really love it when you tell single black women that they're going to die alone. I said, that is the most horrific shit that you can ever say to anybody, because I know women that are going to die alone. And it's not because they're bad people. It's because there is a statistical imbalance between the number of marriage eligible black men and marriage eligible black women. So a lot of women, do to no fault of their own, they're doing their best. The options just aren't what they used to be. And I really think that there could have been a nicer way to say that. So that
Yeah.
was my only bone to pick with him. And I know people may have
He had
interpreted
been
that.
saying it nice, and a lot of people didn't understand. Like, he used to critique black men much harsher, like
Mm-hmm.
before black women started. And I think that's why black women started to follow him. But then when black women wanted to go in and ask the questions, he got honest. He was like, listen, this ain't something I just started doing yesterday. I was doing this I seen him rip down a black man. Like, you want this lady to do what for you and what for you? And how much do you make? How big is your dick? What type of car do you drive? Go get yourself together and come back and approach the woman. Then you can talk about what you feel like a woman should and shouldn't do. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you're now, that man that she respects. Be somebody that a woman respects. But then when the women's was applauding that, because it was a black woman that was like, yeah, Kevin, yeah, get his ass, get that nigga. Now when the coin is flipped, you know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, wait a minute. But here's the thing: a lot of the platforms, and I was talking to, Miss Jonesy about this. A lot of our, when we see these platforms, they're male dominated. Yeah, we have Jennifer Hudson, Sherry Shepherd, me, and stuff like that. But majority of podcasts and things like that are elevated by men. Men hold the token when it comes to talk shows, podcasts, educating the masses, and things like that. And they'll let a few women in. And when we're in, we're just talking about that. We can say the slightest thing, especially as a black woman, we're canceled all day. But a black man can smell seeds, say how sexy you are, do whatever, God knows what, threaten to shoot you on live. His program is still running. You know what I'm saying? So there's definitely a bias in that. But and I just feel that's why Kevin got amplified more, is because a lot of men dominate these podcast spaces, and it's like, get these bitches. They ain't this, they ain't that. You know what I'm saying? But if we had more women in the space like me, I feel like those conversations would be amplified more on men calling out other men, such as you, Dr. Umar Johnson, and others. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think that what Kevin, at least from what I heard from the men that really followed Kevin, and I told them that they should listen, because I believe you are better off when you hear all the perspectives on the topic. I like listening to people that disagree with me more than I like to listen to people that agree with me, because I want to understand how to see it, the issue from different angles, right? So what I saw was a lot of pain. I saw a lot of pain from men that have gone through things where nobody cares. Nobody knows the pain of a man who loses access to his children, or he's doing his best as a husband, and then you get a divorce and you got to move out of the house with your kids. Like, that's really, really painful. So these men had a lot of pain, but the thing I challenged him on is I said, you got to express your pain in a way that's going to be healthy and protective of the community, because black women, we know black women go through pain. Lord Jesus, I mean, it's terrible, and my wife educates me on that on a regular basis. But it wasn't hard for me, because I grew up knowing the importance of listening to women. My grandmother, my mother, my sister, my daughter. I have to listen to them, or I'll get beat up for trying to ignore their voice, right? So what I think happens on the internet, unfortunately, is you lose balance, right? And what I really wanted here's the thing with Kevin. Kevin was a super smart guy. He did really great content even before everybody started paying attention to him. And then when he told that lady she was going to die alone, suddenly everything goes viral. It becomes a conversation and the platform grows. And then I saw lots of videos with the words "die alone" in the title, and it just really kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because I think that when you're talking about something as important and as delicate as male female relationships and us building families and having kids, you can't have kind of these simple minded one size fits all discussions. Not to say that Kevin did that, but to say that, for example, I
It's
heard.
easily taken out of context and just condensed down to just the dialogue when it's just so many other moving parts to that.
Right, there's a lot of moving parts. Even
Yeah.
for example, with one of the last things that I remember hearing Kevin say that I didn't agree was he said, "When you're over 35 and you're a woman, nobody wants you. Like you're the leftovers." And
Yeah.
I said that's not true.
Yeah, I asked him about that too, because I'm like, "Oh, there's some women over 35 that's bad." Like, I know, like, I have friends
Yeah,
like that. Like, they
yes.
everywhere they go, men are like, you know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like, I'm like, I
because
don't know if that's true, Kevin. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
especially black women. I mean, black women are gorgeous, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like,
Of course.
so my challenge to that was I said, okay, if being a high value man means having stuff like status and money and all that, I guess I would fit the category. I have money and status. I've done things, right? I was single before I married my wife. I met women every city I went to.
Mhm.
And I got to the point where I was the opposite. I said, I don't want to date a woman under 35 because I want to date a woman who is a grown up. So I found myself interested in women that were 40 to 45 ish, who had lived a life experience, but who still looked damn good.
Mhm.
And that was exactly the category my wife was in. So I was like, who said that, or who said things like a dress size is important? There are black women of all dress sizes who look extraordinarily good. I can't say that about white women, Asian women. None. Black women are just unique in that way. So it wasn't
You
that
better
I had a
preach, brother.
problem.
You better preach.
You're right. So my thing is, I just think a more balanced discussion, because the thing is, right, you had women that really would listen because they're really trying to understand men. And I respect those women because they're at least saying, okay, let me understand how men are thinking. So if women want to understand how men think, you need to hear from different kinds of men, right? That's it. Like, but I do think listening to men is very important. And honestly, I don't know if society encourages people to do that. I think anybody that sits around and tells you, or it just patronizes or panders to you by telling you that it's never your fault, it's always the man, you're perfect the way you are, that is not your friend. And Derek Jackson did that in a terrible way. And you see where that ended up for him. I think the best people in your
Don't
life.
even get me started on that one.
Oh, well, I'm sure you got a lot to say about that, right? And here's the thing about Derek that's interesting, to be honest with you. Most men saw right through that bullshit from the beginning. Like, most men were like, "Oh Lord, here he goes. He's taking pictures of his crotch, taking pictures with his shirt off." But the thing is, the reason I would give him a little grace is that he's young, and I think that a man who is that young, who has that much power over women, is going to have massive amounts of temptation that he might not understand how to manage. Like a lot of these NBA players, like you look at Zion Williamson and what he's going through, where that woman's going to try to destroy his whole life. I think that there's something about the need. If a man is in a leadership position, he has to have some degree of sexual discipline. And I don't think Derek was really doing that. So you're sleeping with these different women who are going to go out on the internet and tell the whole world that they
And
slept with
they
you.
be so low budget. Like
Yes.
when they call me, not all of them, but most of the ones like that I caught him with, I would
Mm.
just be like, there's no way as a wife that I would even try to measure myself up against a bitch that's on Section 8, proud of it. Okay. Proud for a man to fly her to Miami on Spirit. You know what I'm saying? Fucking for the weekend and send her back to her children with no money. You understand what I'm saying? Like, that is not something to brag about.
No,
Like,
it's not.
that's not a lick.
Well, it's not. It's a lack of intelligence and strategy for him. Look, I think men are always going to be attracted to women, and vice versa. It ain't. And remember, all the women Derek was sleeping with, they were sleeping with him, and it seems like it was all consensual. And I'm not here to judge that. But I do think that people have to really understand how the people that you allow into your circle plays a big part in the outcomes of your professional life, your financial life, and everything else. I mean, you look at what Derek has lost
Mhm.
because he was not able to exercise some degree of discernment. You
My
know,
husband talks about that all the time. You
Mhm.
know, being a man, because you know, we've always been entrepreneurs since the beginning, since we met, right? And that's one thing I had to piggyback off of what you were saying.
Mhm.
As a man, for him to tell me as my husband and lie to me like I am not going to be attracted to other women. We find women, it's in our being, but a man that was raised with discipline, like he
Mhm.
was raised by his father, right? You
Mhm.
understand that that's an attraction. That has nothing to do with you wanting the woman. You
Mhm.
appreciate the beauty, you move on. Just like we
Mhm.
as women, and women can sit up here and lie all they want and say that they don't find other men attractive. And that, wow, like that's nice to look at. I wonder, but that doesn't necessarily mean you want to go there, because there's
Mhm.
certain qualities about your husband or your mate that you're with. That's the reason as to why you're with him. So it's nice to
Mhm.
look at. But long term, can I build a relationship? Can I have a partnership with this person? What can we actually build together? And that's essentially what it boils down to. The bottom line has to have a bottom line. Do you understand what I'm saying? It
Yeah,
has to make
yeah,
sense. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, because my husband and I, we're both realists. He's like, if I ain't attracted to women, who am I attracted to?
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Like, what?
right, right. It's it's just one of those things. And you mentioned that point about your husband being trained by his father.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys didn't get that training.
I
And
understand.
I would suggest to ladies listening, if you are evaluating a man, ask him what he learned from his father. What's that relationship like? I'm not saying that that should disqualify him, but that says
Yeah.
a lot. And I really say that even to men too. Because one thing that we don't talk about is that 76% of our kids grow up without a father in the house every day,
Mm.
like, mentoring them on a regular basis. And you look in our house, I watch how my daughters follow their mother. I'm their bonus dad. They have another father. We partner together to raise these kids, and it works, right? Because everybody's mature. And I watch
Did
how
you
they
just
just
say that you have other children? Do you have children outside of your
yes,
marriage? Okay.
yeah,
So to me, and me and Kevin did have a disagreements on this, because I was like, Kevin, my mom had 3 kids, right? And it
mhm.
wasn't nothing for her to keep a man in the house to pay the bills. So, saying that a woman, it kind of lowers your chances. I'm like, there were men that was
Mm,
fighting to get with my mama. Like, they didn't give a shit
mhm.
if she had 6 kids because she was bad. You know what I'm saying? She's still
Right.
bad. So, like, that doesn't make any sense. So, you can still bag successful men with children.
Mhm.
They don't. And
Absolutely.
if they're mentally, like, if they have their shit together and they understand that if
Mhm.
you want a woman that's stable, 9 times out of 10 they're gonna come with children, because they have responsibilities that force them to be stable, and they've learned to master it more. So it's
Yeah.
kind of an advantage when you date women, that are older and over 35 with children and have been in relationships. They know what they want. They're not gonna be, running your credit cards
Mhm.
into the ground. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I just had to jump in on that. I'm
No,
sorry.
I think that's a good point. I did. That's another part of the conversation I didn't understand, because I would hear men,
Yeah.
especially when I married my wife, because my wife had 3 kids when we got married, and they were, they were using words like simp, which, I don't even pay attention to that crap because I'm a grown man, but it's like and I was like, well, what made me a simp? And they would reference like the fact that I got on my knee to propose to my wife. I was so emotionally connected to her and so happy to be her husband that I cried when I proposed to her. And I'm proud to take, to be able to lead a household with her 3 children. And I think that's what led some men, like, to see that in a way where it's like, not all men, it was a very small percentage, but there were some men who said, oh, that's simping. And what I really hear when I see that is I'm hearing from men that really weren't taught what masculinity looks like, right? So if you don't have a man around really teaching you the subtleties and the nuances of masculinity, then you get it distorted. What do? You turn on the TV and you're learning how to be a man from your favorite rapper who acts like he's banging over breakfast. He always got his gun. He ain't never loved a woman in his life. He shows no emotion, etc. Right? Whereas I was lucky enough. My biological father, was not in my life. He was gone. I was born on Father's Day, and my father wasn't even there when I was born. But I was lucky enough to get a stepfather when I was 3, and he married my mother. And you're right, my mother had a baby, but she was so pretty that my father was like, I don't even care, So he took over both of us. And my father was a complex man. He wasn't he was nobody's punk. He's a Vietnam veteran, police officer. He's literally killed people. But I also saw him submitting to my mother, and I saw my mother submitting to my father. So anybody run around saying that you should never submit to your partner has never really seen what it really takes to have a 30, 40, 50-year marriage. They've never seen it. So the best thing they can do, if you're signing up for this, it's like signing up to run a marathon. If you sign up to run a marathon and all you've ever done has been a sprinter, you need to go get some marathon training from some marathon runners, right? And most people on the internet who are giving relationship advice are horribly unqualified to be doing that. Horribly
Mm.
unqualified. If you and I know, we know some of these people. Their
They
personal
they
lives are a mess.
grabbed me when I bowed to my husband at our first live event that we sold out. They dragged me so bad. They said, "Don't you ever in your life get on your knee and bow to your husband." I said, I do this every day. I'm just doing this in public right
There
now.
you
Like
go.
he get bowed to physically, spiritually, mentally. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like I didn't understand that. I'm like, yeah, there look, and he bows to me. So,
Yes.
they felt like, oh, you just doing this extra. I'm like, no, this is how shit gets treated. Like,
Yes.
period. When he say goes, like they've seen me
Mhm.
being on live arguing with other people, and my husband will call and be like, shut it down. I'll be like, all right, I gotta go. I gotta go. You know what I'm saying? Like he'll let me go so far, but he'll be like, all right, time to come on, let's go. Let's go.
I love that.
So
I mean, that's
yeah,
called love.
that shit right there. It's like y'all don't understand the dynamics of what goes into relationships. And when you finally meet that person, it's kind of
Mhm,
like you respect them as much as you respect your parents, like, or
mhm,
someone that you love, or your children. Like they're
mhm,
now a part of your family. And so I
mhm,
just think we're so disconnected, especially in these
mhm,
social media days. We'll rather spend
mhm,
time liking posts as opposed to telling someone that you like them in real life, or love them that
mm.
you in real life, and showing them in real life, as opposed to posting a picture to tell the world that you love them, but behind closed doors you don't give even an ounce of emotion, or any type of affirmations to the person that you're with. It's all for show.
Yeah, the simplest thing I would tell anybody that really wants to be happy in their relationships is number
Mhm.
one, don't listen to other people when it comes to your relationship. Don't listen to people on the internet, especially. And then number two, the relationship has to be more important than your ego. If your
Mm.
ego is like, well, I'm not going to take that from no woman, or I ain't going to let no man tell me what to do, then what you're doing is you're putting your own personal needs and whatever ahead of the collective. The family it should be the top priority. And I don't mind, standing down. I'll stand down in a second over something that is gonna make sure my family is good. And I don't know if that is really taught enough. I think people think, I don't know what they think in terms of, maybe they think you're supposed to be happy every day, or you're always supposed to get what you want, but that's not what it is. And if you can't handle that, it's okay. It's just remain single, because again, another wealth killer is stuff like divorce.
Mhm.
When you can't work together as a group. I mean, in fact, my latest book is called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. I talk extensively not just about culture, but family. And most wealth is accumulated as a group, as a collective. You go to Africa a lot, you see that in Africa. Most Africans that are wealthy, they are wealthy families. My friend is from Botswana, and her family, it's almost like they're like coming to America. I went to visit
Mhm.
her, and they had Bentleys and
Oh,
Range Rovers and Benzes and a gardener and a cook and
yeah.
a butler. And I said, how did you get all this money? She said, my grandfather had a lot of cows,
Mhm.
and then my father had more cows than him. And now me and my brothers have more cows than they did. Every generation we have more cows. And she
Mhm.
said, I do not understand for a second how African Americans think you can accumulate wealth when your families are falling apart and you're starting over every generation. You
And
know,
and that's been systemically embedded into us.
yes.
You run at the first fight. You run at the first
Mhm.
infidelity. You just find a reason
Yep.
to get out and break it up. And then
Yep.
now you got two families struggling, kids are struggling, which is it's kind of like it's people are expecting people to I guess build wealth and build relationships and forgetting that people are human.
Yeah, yeah. trauma is big for us. My
Yeah.
wife is certified in trauma in
I
addition to being
know,
a
yeah. She
professor
is
and all
she
that.
is a delight, by the way. I loved her. Because
Mm.
when I asked her, I was like, "How do you feel about the mixed reviews behind your husband?" She's like, "I like him." I said, "Dang, girl, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. I make content based on what's trending, okay? So she thinks that he didn't do so and I obviously I ain't made it too bad because you've been on my platform. So I was just like, okay. Because as a wife, I'll be like, nah, you talk shit about my husband. Then no, I'm not coming nowhere over there. You take that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm
Right.
glad that as a grown woman, she understood.
You know what? And that's my thing. Like,
Yeah.
before I got married, I waited to get married. I got married in my 40s, but I
Okay.
always said, I told everybody years ago, I said, if I get married, I'm going to marry a black woman. Like, the other choices are not an option for me because to me that's my way of signaling that I'm committed to the fight that our community has. We have a lot of pain to overcome, a lot of damage, a lot of trauma, and I want to be next to a black woman as I go through that because a good black woman will stand by you like nobody else. Y'all have had our back since slavery, and sometimes y'all can be challenging, just like we can be challenging.
Mhm.
My wife, she had me take this trauma test. It's called the ACEs trauma. It stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences, and I took this ACEs test, and my trauma scale was real high because I had some abuse
Oh.
and some neglect, some challenges as a kid, and it really made me aware of how our trauma can cause us to hit our triggers, which can cause us to destroy our relationships. So I
Like
was very
self-sabotagers.
yeah, you self-sabotage, right? Because
Mhm.
maybe you're scared of being re-traumatized, and so I'm very proud that I have a therapist because I think first of all, I think a therapist is not somebody that you just go see because you have a problem. I said I want a therapist because I really want to show up as the best man I could be for the people that I love. I don't want to sabotage relationships because of something that happened in my childhood. So I want to unpack all of that. So anybody like that's listening that really wants to improve yourself, make that investment in a therapist because it'll just give you ways to understand things in a certain way. And it also even circles back into stuff like wealth. Because think about it like this. If you look even at something like, say, a rap group, if you have a rap group that doesn't get along, and let's say they're making money, touring around the world, number one albums and all this stuff, and then they start fighting each other and they can't
Migo.
find a way. Right, the Migos. There we go. The Migos, 3 6 Mafia, my buddy Willie D's and the Ghetto Boys,
Yeah.
him and Bushwick and all them were fighting. Like think about how many millions of dollars get lost when you can't work together. They could be touring right now. Well, Bushwick's gone, but Space and Willie could be touring making money, but it's not happening, right? But you look at the contrast to that. Look at New Edition. Look at how they split up over the years, went their separate ways, and then realized we're better together. And now New Edition is gonna be going around Bobby Brown out there huffing and puffing, still trying to dance, and
Mhm.
but making money, getting paid to
Yeah.
do it, making
Yeah.
millions of dollars. Like so that's what happens when you are able to overcome your differences with the people that are gonna have your back. And a good therapist can help you do that. So I think any family that wants to stay together, get you some help. It's not easy to do it all by yourself. I know I can't do it by myself.
Now let me ask you something. Because I know we got to wrap up here because we've been here over an hour and stuff.
Okay.
Because I could talk to you all day. I really can. And I would love that. And I would definitely love you to have you back. To continue to, use the platform to just, get the information out there.
Thank you.
Um,
Mom.
Michi X is a very, she's a good friend of mine, and her message is so strong.
Mm.
And I felt like you guys were powerful together. Do you see any chance of reconciliation between you two? Because your message is the same.
Right.
Your intentions are the same. And I noticed you just spoke on like how important it is as a group it is to get money together. And I feel that in a space that we're in, especially as black women, I'm honored to have my husband. That's my foundation for all of this, right? People ask me all the time, and I'm gonna say this. People say, "What? Why you just didn't take the videos down?" I said, "Listen, I was gonna yield. I was pregnant. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to deal with no. I had never been to court before. I didn't want to deal with no law. So I was like, girl, if it means that much to you, I take it down. Since you out here spending money to get it down. But
Mm.
if it wasn't for my husband saying, put it back up,
Mm. Wow.
you have a career to build, and if you start yielding now, you
Mm.
you won't be able to build because now they're all gonna come. You're gonna
Mm,
have lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit because this
mm,
one you submitted to, whether win, lose, or draw, you're gonna whatever the outcome is, you're gonna go with this and you're gonna deal with it because this is you're setting the tone for what the brand is about. So I feel that people like Michi X are stronger when they have people with a wealth of just information who have degrees in it, who are black men that can help to make it an easier role for us to be taken serious. Because it's like, as a black woman, we get out here and we say something, we can say the same exact thing you say, right? As a man, we get called angry, masculine, we're disconnecting. Why are we not feminine? Why are we not doing this? But a black man comes out and says, it's all okay. Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, kumbaya, yeah, let's do that. But as a black woman, we're not allowed to speak on the same subjects. And I feel like Michi with someone like you would go much further and be taken much more serious with the protection from somebody like you.
mm. Well, I think that's a valid point that you make, and I will say that I don't have anything against Michi X. I think she's super talented. That was what drew me to want to work with her in the first place.
Mhm.
Um, it's hard. It's really hard because I tried to make things work. With the whole Fly Nubian Queen thing. It got messy to the point where, and I can't really talk about it publicly because I
I
don't
understand. No,
I
I
don't
don't want you to go
yeah.
into detail. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was hard. It was really hard, and so what I will say is, at the very least, I'm not ever going to go out of my way to disparage what she's doing, and I think, and I applaud it. I support it. I in terms of us working together, I don't really know if that could happen, just because sometimes things happen and it's hard to come back from it. You know,
Okay.
um, and that's all I can really say.
Well, that's what New Edition said too. But
But
when it's for the greater good, because the wealth of knowledge that she has and the wealth of knowledge that you have, black women like us need black men to protect us, even during our most vulnerable, most. It's kind of like managing a house, like polygamy, right? You got four wives. They ain't finna get along. You understand what I'm saying? And you as a man and you got four wives, you got to figure out how to make them happy, how to keep yourself happy, how to keep children happy, how to keep air. You see what I'm saying? And you may have one wife that just pushed the envelope. She may just, but
Mm,
you because you can't divorce. In some religions you're not allowed to divorce. You take that wife, you take everything that come with her. Eventually, they kind of they settle in. It kind of challenges you to be better at being who you are as a community leader. And I felt like Michi X could have really kind of helped to push you into a better space to manage more
mm,
black women in the wealth space, in the consciousness space for us as a community. And I feel that, not to say that she needs it, like she's going to be successful
mm.
without, but I feel like she will be more successful when you have the backing of a black man, whether he's your husband or whether he's your business partner or someone that can help to kind of get you into rooms that you necessarily wouldn't get into.
Well, I'll say this: I'm not going to ever disrupt what she's doing. I'll always
Mhm,
support it. I don't. I think I'm still. Maybe that's part of my journey.
mhm,
When you run into scenarios where you have several people that you are working with, and they're not getting along at all. You hope that you can settle it, because you're right. Working together, that's the original vision, and that's the one that works.
mhm.
But then it's sort of a point where maybe you say, okay, maybe it's better if you're doing your thing over there. So I don't have anything against her. I don't talk about her.
I understand.
It's not even, and it's not a hate thing at all. The biggest thing I will say about Michi is that I got to know her, and I know her story, and she has been through so much, and so whenever I would get frustrated, I would remember, that all of us have that inner child that's maybe hurting from things we went through as a kid, and so I wish her the best on that. If somebody brought her to me, or we were talking or something, any animosity would never come from me, and I hated the fact that it even became a big deal, but I couldn't really respond directly to it because I had to focus on what needed to be done, the bigger mission. So
Okay.
that's the most I know how to say about it.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want more of my thoughts, we could talk more about it. But I
Yeah, no. Mess is never, it never pays the bills. So,
yeah,
I tell people I've never made money from any beef ever. So, it doesn't do anything for my platform. It's fun sometimes, to throw shots. It's just a part of our human nature. That's why I
right,
got wars and stuff. But at the end of the day, like, wars never, yeah, war can make money on the back end, but it doesn't really do anything for the economy. Everybody loses. Nobody
right.
wins, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's ultimately what I think. But when I do see two very powerful creators, and I see a woman like Michi who is strong-willed and everything,
Mhm,
I
mhm.
I allow her the platform because I do believe in her message, and I do believe she was kind of hurt at how everything transpired, and that was just her way of venting. But at the end of the day, like, I do feel like y'all are stronger together.
Well,
So
I'll say this: if she wanted to have a private conversation and tell me ways that I hurt her, I would definitely apologize unconditionally and be
got it.
willing to make
Boom.
amends.
And
But
then
how
y'all
about
can get back to preaching the good word.
that?
On
Yes,
money.
we all in the same gang, right? We all on the same team for sure.
Yeah. And it could just be, I ain't saying like how to, because of course that naturally doesn't work. It's kind of like you starting a business in your 20s. That business don't work out. You start another business, you're bankrupt. You understand what I'm saying? It's kind of like along the scale of that. And I just think y'all messages are both so powerful. And I've never said anything against your message, right? You
Right.
know. I just think that we just need us to stick together more, and we need more black women in the podcast space to have that backing from a black man to say, hey, wait a minute. Okay. This is a woman you talking to, because you'll be surprised that it's more black men, especially like gay men and straight men who take shots at me as opposed to women. It's always the
Well,
men. But they
interesting.
only could go so far because they understand, like, I have a husband and he don't have those stuff online. You see what I'm saying? That's just not his thing. Like, he ain't finna get up and argue with a woman. And frankly, if you argue with a woman, it tells him everything that he needs to know anyway.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, we'll
Yeah.
deal with this when we deal with this. You feel me? Like, it's gonna be a day, but it's not like any violence, but it's like there's gonna come a time where whether it's gonna be by me or anybody that you're gonna have to answer for. Because if you're willing to go that far, on a woman,
Mhm.
because you're emotionally unstable,
Mhm.
you ain't no telling what you'll do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And
So
that kind of behavior, and that's what I really challenge men in general to do is I know you're frustrated, I know you got something to say, but you need to be really careful. Watch your mouth when you're talking about black women. You cannot, these women, you wouldn't exist without a black woman. So there's a sacredness that black women have that has to be acknowledged, even if as you express your disagreement, as you challenge her, and so I think that when you get these men that are so disrespectful or say I'm tired of black women, I'm giving up on black women, all this other stuff, that's where they've gone over the line. And
yeah.
to at that point, you become a liability to the community, which is entirely unacceptable.
Exactly. So, but listen, I support everything that you're doing. Do you mind dropping, like, sending us all the links to your books, telling us what book right now that you have out that you're pushing so that people can go and buy, click, and support?
Yeah, my website is boycewatkins.com. It's spelled just like Joyce with a B.
Okay.
So at boycewatkins.com, I have a new book out called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. It's done really well. It's an Amazon bestseller. And also, we have things like financial flashcards for kids. We developed a lot of tools to educate our kids on wealth at an early age, because that's something that isn't done very often, but it makes a big difference in your child's well-being, and their economic freedom, all kinds of stuff like that. So a lot of this on my website, boycewatkins.com. And then in the
Okay.
fall, we have the All Black National Convention, which is in Atlanta in
Oh,
October.
good.
And you are invited, by the way. And
Oh, thank you.
yeah, and it's so if you have time or you near ATL, I would love to have you. And
Okay.
it's amazing. The energy is super positive. We bring together experts from all areas: lawyers, doctors, professors, all the people. Sometimes entertainers come into, but we really want to bring together people that can form solutions for our
I like
community.
that.
and
Yeah.
it's we're on our 8th year, and it goes really well. So I guarantee anybody who attends is gonna love it. So
Okay. All right. Great. So we'll make sure we link all of that below the video. Again, I'm glad that we had a good introduction. Like I said, I could talk to you for forever. I'll definitely be reaching out to your team so that you can, speak on a lot of these topics and things like that, and help just kind of keep us informed, keep money in our pockets and keep us, just kind of conscious as a whole on the bigger picture. So thank you. And thank you to your wife as well, too. Like I said, she is so smart. She's such a vibe. I was like, if I did live in Atlanta, I would be. Y'all live in Atlanta, right?
well, we have a house in Atlanta, and we are
Okay.
gonna move to Atlanta. But
Okay, house in
we
Atlanta.
live in Chicago now.
Houses
You got
everywhere.
do you? Oh, look at y'all. Well, yeah, well, we do a little bit of real estate, that type of thing. Now,
Good,
are
that's
you in
good.
Florida? Is that where you live?
Yeah, we're in South Florida. So
Nice,
I
nice.
was in Georgia for 20 years. Them allergies and the taxes and stuff like that. I said, these people gonna put me out of business if I'm in business.
Oh my
Lawsuit. I
gosh.
got to
Yeah,
go. I got to
yeah.
go.
I'm still trying to figure out how I'm gonna make it with my allergies. That's kind of making me nervous. So
It's rough in
I might
Georgia.
be in Florida with you.
It's rough. It's very, very rough.
Really?
So yes, you better be prepared. So
Okay.
you people that have never had allergies before, all of a sudden got allergies out the blue. So yeah,
Wow.
but no, thank you again. I hope that you'll definitely be back. And I
Yes.
know we didn't get to really cover everything. I just kind of wanted us to break the ice and I
Yeah.
pick your brain a little bit and do an introduction because I know you've never been on this platform, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers have seen you on a lot of platforms. But just being able to kind of introduce you over here, and hopefully, you'll definitely be back pretty soon.
I can't wait to come back, and I love your work. I think you're very
Thank
good.
you,
You
thank
wanna
you,
do what you're the goat at this. You're so good. So
thank you. Listen, I just try. People think I'm for the ratchetness. I'm like, no, I'm really conservative. Y'all just don't know.
well, you remind me of when I did stuff with, back in the day with Wendy Williams.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Are you
Wendy.
really telling your age?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I used to go on her radio show all the time. Yeah, yeah, that was when I met her and Charlamagne and everything. And
Yeah.
and I thought it was interesting that Wendy was so good at what she did, but people don't know she was a genius. I mean, this
Yeah.
lady was, and look at what she went through in New York, and Diddy kicked her out of the city. She still came back and became number one. I mean,
Mhm.
I was really inspired by her success. There was some messiness, I guess, with the husband and all that, but I didn't pay attention to that.
Yeah.
I just
He
look at
fucked
the
up the family. He fucked up the family and the money.
Yeah, yeah. I can't say I like Kevin as much as I like Wendy. Let's just say that. I'll leave it
Yeah.
at that.
Well,
No,
karma has its way. He just got hit with that fork. He had to sell his house and unpaid
really?
taxes. Couldn't even pay a $800 homeowners association fee. They put a lien on the house, and
Wow.
it's a lot going on. Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
Oof. Oof. Well, it
Yeah.
goes full circle, I guess.
Mm.
Mm.
Wendy's dime is done for him and his
Yeah.
side bitch. So, so I heard that the side bitch had just overcame cancer. I was like, how sway?
Oh.
I was like, did
Oh.
Wendy's money pay for your chemo treatments?
Woof. Oh.
We gotta go. Thank you so much.
Woo, that's
I
brutal.
appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you too. I
All
really do.
right.
Thank you so
I'll
much for
talk to
having me.
you soon. Thank
All
you.
right. Take care.